Greetings, this is Jason Marcellus, and imagine you're a musician that's been hired to do a gig, and then when you get to the gig, you realize that the audience is white and they don't really like black people. You're a black musician and you're just there to service them for entertainment. Now, imagine you're a black musician in the South and you're given the address to the gig, and you get there and realize that you're at a plantation. While this isn't a common occurrence, this is something that does happen once in a while. In the most recent news of the Nottoway Plantation being burned down, I mentioned this to trumpeter Ashlin Parker, who I'm currently on the road with. Ashlin is originally from Charlotte, North Carolina, but he lives in New Orleans, Louisiana. And he realized that he actually did a gig at the Nottoway Plantation, which is located in the aptly named White Castle, Louisiana. Since this is a story that isn't told a lot, I decided to interview Ashlin Parker so he could talk about his experience at the Nottoway Plantation.
My name is Ashlin Parker, trumpet player.
What was your reaction when you had found out about the Nottoway Plantation being burned down?
Honestly, good riddance.
Yeah, and then I think you had found out that you had done a gig there.
I did. I looked through my iPhone map stuff and I'm like, yeah, White Castle, Nottoway. It was that Nottoway Plantation that I went to, 2014.
Yeah, and how is it that you got hired for that gig?
I got called for like a last minute kind of pickup gig because I can read, and they just asked me if I could go on a couple of day riverboat cruise for a set amount of money, and I agreed. Well, once I got on the ship, even the whole feel of the ship was kind of like the good old days, this kind of like Americana, from the music to the decor. It was just very, very old school and catered to a very specific crowd, Southern and white.
So, and that was on the cruise?
That was on the cruise, you know?
Yeah, and then did you know that you were going to end up at a plantation?
I saw it as soon as I got on the ship. I saw all our little ports that we visit. Nottoway Plantation, and I'm not used to going to a plantation as a tourist, so I was taken back. And when we arrived, I didn't plan on going, but my curiosity definitely got the best of me, and I had to go see what was going on.
Once you got inside the plantation, what was your experience?
Well, I was immediately greeted by hosts in period attire and old accents, and it was very strange. And we went around the grounds and went around these very well preserved ballrooms and dining rooms, really fancy stuff. And I didn't see any black people on the tour, and I didn't hear anything about the 150 slaves that worked on it. Actually, the only black folks I saw to that point were little figurines holding lamps or signs, kind of like serving into eternity. There's, you know, after the whole entire tour, when they did lunch, I went downstairs and I saw that all the servers were black, and they were also in like tuxedo, formal stuff, and that made me extremely uncomfortable. So uncomfortable, I had to whisper to one server that, "Are you okay? Are they taking care of you?" Like for you can. She kind of chuckled as if, you know, she's been asked this a few times. You know, that she was fine. No, they got us. They get taken care of us. It's like, oh, okay, you know. And then after lunch, I kind of started to do an unguided tour around the back, and I found slave quarters, and there was some markers and some signage explaining everything else except for what I was looking at, and I had to lean down. I remember leaning down to read about slaves, and the one little line on the slaves were treated well, was my cue to go back to the ship. And I decided to leave after that point. And then on my way out, I saw an officer crossing on the levee, like as if he's been overseeing this plantation for 150 years, you know. Very strange.
What was it that the tour guide was saying?
Well, they were 100% just celebrating the accomplishments of the Randolph family and how awesome they were and how this business did well and this blah, blah, blah. I mean, it was just, it was celebration of that family. That's all it was. That's all it was.
Okay.
Zero mention of the 150 slaves that worked on the property.
Yeah. Was there any mention of the name of the plantation?
No, I don't remember at all.
Yes, because
that.
I've heard a recent story. Someone had told me about how they had visited the plantation in the, I want to say the early 1990s approximately, and that tour guide actually said what was really happening. And they mentioned that the name Nottoway Plantation had to do with the fact that the wood that the house was made from was knotted up. And then slaves had to get the knots out, meaning they had to get the knot away from the wood. So
that would not surprise me if that was true.
Yes, and I don't know if the tour guide got into any of that.
No. I don't think that was their mission at all, to shine any light on enslaved Africans on that whole tour, at all. And good riddance, This is all before Get Out, This was and Tales from the Hood, like all these, all those two movies basically are hitting the nail on the head on what the Nottoway plantation experience was like, for sure.